My name is Randall Hallett. I'm the Executive Director of Development here at the Medical Center. And on behalf of Dr. Hal Moore and Mr. Glenn Fosdick, who are in the hospital board meeting, I'd like to welcome you to campus and for the employees an opportunity for you to come downstairs and get some Val's Pizza as well. I will be stepping back into the board meeting. I saw my salad with no dressing on it, so your lunch looks a lot better than mine that's coming. So, you know, I was asked to welcome you, and trying to figure out what to say, I decided I'd turn to someone who's a lot smarter than I am. I saw this morning, and I'll quote it. "My dream for my community is to expand. I want this for my community because if more people come to Omaha, there'll be more diversity and cultures, just like Dr. King wanted. There'll be more diversity and more different cultures in worship centers, schools, businesses, restaurants, and the economy will grow too. And then the best part, if we want to change the world, we have to change it, just like Dr. King." That's a quote from the winner of the essay contest that was in the Omaha World Herald this morning, fourth grader. I want to give her the proper attribution. Alexandria Schmidt, fourth grade. It's a reminder that maybe Robert Langdon was correct. Robert Fulghum, was correct. Everything we really need to know we learned in kindergarten. The sad thing is sometimes we forget. Today is a wonderful opportunity to remember that simple sentiment. For more than a decade, the Nebraska Medical Center and the university have partnered together to bring this wonderful forum to celebrate Dr. King. We're proud to be a part of this special day. And it's an opportunity for us to reflect on what it means for us as individuals, for our families, for organizations and businesses that we either participate in or work at, and for the community as a whole. This event is an incredibly positive step for creating institutional culture that supports cultural understanding and ability. So on behalf of both the university and hospital leadership, I'd like to welcome you here today. And thank you for coming to our campus and enjoying in this great opportunity to listen to John Ewing. And I'll turn it over to someone who's actually going to do the introduction. We're progressing in a positive way from least to best. So that would make me the least since I was the first. But I'd ask Joe Giles, the manager for web content and multimedia from the university, to come up and introduce John Ewing. And I want to welcome you. If there's anything we can ever do for you on this campus, please do not hesitate to ask. We serve this community and are proud to do so each and every day. Joe?
Thank you, Ronald. I have the distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker today. It is someone I have known for many years. Our paths crossed in our former careers. I was a TV reporter, and he was a deputy police chief in the Omaha Police Department. He spent 24 years at OPD, and during that time, he was an advocate for crime victims and worked to pass new legislation against addressing crimes against women and children. He received the Omaha Police Department's Distinguished Service Medal in 2000. After a great career in public safety, he announced his first run for an elected office. In an interview, I remember asking him, John, what are you thinking? Why would you consider a political career? Well, his answer was simple. He said he enjoyed being a public servant, and he felt he could make a difference in the treasurer's office. Elected in 2006 and re-elected in 2009, he became the first African American elected to a countywide office in Nebraska history. He is responsible for the collection of over $1.7 billion in taxes for the governmental entities of Douglas County. You've probably seen his name in red letters if you've registered your car, got a driver's license, or on your property tax bill. He is the recipient of the Achievement Award from the National Association of Counties for the business model adopted in the Treasurer's Office. An Omaha native, he is known for his commitment to the community, youth mentorship, and ministry. He graduated from Northwest High School and received his bachelor's degrees in criminal justice and business administration as well as a master's degree in urban studies from the University of Nebraska at Omaha. For nearly 2 decades, he has volunteered on a number of boards throughout our community and with organizations such as Girls Inc., Habitat for Humanity, Roncalli Catholic High School, and the United Way. In addition, he is an associate minister at my place of worship, Salem Baptist Church. And he's an adjunct professor in leadership and ethics at UNO's School of Public Administration. He receives numerous speaking engagements, and we are honored to have twisted his arm to have him here with us today. Here to share his thoughts on Dr. King's legacy, please help me welcome John Ewing, Jr.
Good afternoon. I'll set that there and I'll tell you what it's for later. Just don't eyeball my trophy too much, okay? I'm excited to be here today, and I'd like to thank Dr. Newland and Joe for inviting me here. And then I'm going to do something because I've got to get myself out of trouble as often as I can here. Some of you might recognize the fact that I ran for Congress. And so you saw a commercial, and you saw my dad in that commercial. What you didn't see was my wife and my mother in that commercial, and so I want to make sure I keep them happy and stay out of trouble. So I'm going to introduce you, first of all, to my better 3/4, my wife, Viv Ewing. My mom, Dolores. And my dad, John Sr. Now, on the day of that commercial, I was actually at our home when they started filming and everything, and I left to go speak to a class at UNO. And so I found out later on that they didn't have Viv in the commercial, and I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. Then I came back, and they were filming my mom and dad sitting on the couch together. And then when I saw the commercial, they had my dad and not my mom. And I'm like, wow, I'm 0 for 2 here. So I just always want to make sure that they get recognized because that was not my idea. I delegate and I let the professionals do what they're supposed to do. And sometimes it doesn't always work out the way you'd like. Now, Joe and I had a conversation via email about this event today. And so I'm going to just share with you about that conversation. And if you don't mind, I don't like to hide behind podiums. I'll probably go back there a little bit. But she told me that they were emailing this out, they were having press releases, and they were also going to be streaming this live to the people throughout the med center and the hospital. And she said in the end of it, no pressure. So me, as you probably can tell, I like to have a little fun. So I said, I thrive on pressure. And so I told her later that after almost 25 years in the Omaha Police Department, 24 years, 9 months, 1 day, and 7 minutes to be exact, that I don't have to deal with life and death issues anymore. As the lieutenant of the Special Victims Unit, as the deputy chief responsible for Homeland Security, there was a lot of pressure sometimes. So I really didn't feel there was any pressure with this. Then I thought about it and I said, well, I guess there is a slight risk that I could bore somebody to death today. So I'm going to try not to do that. I am going to stop speaking before you stop listening. So with that, what I'd like to do is just let you know what I'm going to try to do today. What I am going to try to do is to make sure you understand that you can do great things. So I am going to try to make sure that each of you is convicted that there is still work to be done. I want you to be challenged to see what the problems are today. And then the third thing is, and this is probably the most important part, I want you to be convinced that you are part of the solution that America needs to continue to be the greatest country in the history of the world. Now, one of the things Dr. King did was he challenged America to be better than America was at that time. And some people said bad things about him. They called him a communist sympathizer. They called him un-American. Obviously, he spent a lot of time in jail that some of you know about. He paid a tremendous price to challenge America to be great. I'm going to challenge us a little bit today. That's one of the reasons I ran for Congress, because I believe we have to make sure that we have a focus on the people of this country, and that's what I wanted us to focus on, was how we are going to look out for the people of this great country, because the people is what makes America the greatest country in the history of the world. So anything I say today does not mean I don't love America, okay? Anything I say today does not mean that I have a problem with people being successful. That's not what this is about. What I want to do, however, is challenge us to think about how we can be more inclusive and make sure that America works for everyone. Isn't that what Dr. King wanted? He wanted America to work for everyone. He wanted America to have the ability to live out the meaning of the words in the U.S. Constitution. We have some great words there in the U.S. Constitution, but we have to make sure that we are always living them and that they are possible for every American and every person who comes to this country. So as I said, my goal is simple. I want to convict you, I want to challenge you, and I want to convince you that you are part of the solution. Tell you a little bit about me so you understand. You heard a little bit of the awards and things I've been able to accomplish and receive and all of those things. One of the things I make sure people understand, and this will apply a lot later when I try to convince you that you can do great things, is I'm just a young man from the projects in North Omaha at 30th and Parker, and didn't have a whole lot growing up. But as my parents always taught us, we had love and we had great opportunities in this country to do great things. The second thing is, I really have never done anything great by myself. I've been very fortunate, very blessed to work with some great people in this community, whether it was with the Omaha Police Department, the Douglas County Treasurer's Office, or the community service that I've been a part of. So it's very important to keep that in mind. None of us will ever accomplish anything great. America was built on hope. America was built on the ability to move up. America was built on hard work, and it was built on great promise. And so what we want to do is focus on that promise. And before I go any further, let me humbly say to you all, thank you for allowing me to serve you for 31 years. So I do appreciate the great opportunities I've had. I'm going to read a quote from Dr. King. Behold, I hold these truths to be self-evident. From the Constitution. Behold, I hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by God with certain unalienable rights. This promise, however, has not always been true for all Americans. This promise has not been true for all who have come to our shores. This promise has not been true for our Native American brothers and sisters. This promise has not been true always for African Americans. This promise has not been true for women. This promise has not been true for Latinos. Dr. King stated in his I Have a Dream speech, It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note, not insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro a bad check, a check which has been marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. Dr. King goes on to state, it would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. 1963 is not the end, but a beginning. We cannot turn back, ladies and gentlemen, even now, as we move toward the 50th anniversary later this year of that great speech. It is just a beginning. The work is not done. We have much to accomplish. We have much to do to make America continue to be the greatest country in the history of the world. I submit to you that we have made progress. Today, we will be inaugurating President Barack Obama for a second term. That's progress. I believe the start of Dr. King's dream was to see that day. So we have made progress. I believe we've made progress here in Omaha, Nebraska. I stand before you as the first African American ever elected to a countywide office. That's progress. So we have made progress, but I submit to you that our journey is not done. We can never stop challenging America to be the greatest America that it can be. I believe anytime you settle for where you're at, and this is true of America, that you are not living out the purpose that God has for your life. So we must continue to challenge ourselves. We must continue the struggle for righteousness, and the very soul of America, I believe, is at stake when you look at some of the battles we're having today. We must not overlook the urgency of now. As the old gospel song says, I won't let nothing turn me around, turn me around. We cannot go back. Most Americans are very familiar with Dr. King's legacy when it comes to civil rights and public accommodations. And we've made tremendous progress in that area. But I believe there are some areas today that he would be concerned about if you look at his total body of work. If you look at Dr. King's legacy and you look at how he valued labor and the labor movement, he would not be happy, I don't believe, with some of the things we're doing today to diminish the value of hardworking Americans who go to work every day. He would not be happy with taxing labor at a higher rate than investments. If you do that, you're saying which one of those you value most. And you're saying you don't value as much the working men and women of this country as you do those who get their income from investments and capital gains. I don't believe he would approve of that. I don't believe that he would approve and if you remember history, you remember he was planning a poor people's march to Washington, D.C. prior to his death. And I'm going to just share something with you very quickly. Some of you have seen Baptist ministers before, and you've seen them take their watches off, and you know that doesn't mean anything, right? It just means that he took his watch off. Well, I'm going to tell you that it means something today. This is actually my favorite watch. It's a commemoration of President Barack Obama's inauguration in 2009. And I have a second watch today. I'm a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And so I've synchronized these watches so that I will make sure I get done speaking before you get done listening. So we got two watches to keep me on track here. I believe Dr. King would today be unhappy with what our federal government is doing when you look at the debates about our budget deficits and our long-term debt. When we look at balancing the budget on the backs of our seniors and wanting to break our promises with Medicare and Social Security. I believe that we should be taking care of the greatest generation in the history of this country. The people who made so many sacrifices to make America great, whose backs we stand on today when we look at America. Those greatest generation folks who did the hard work of really building America, and the platform that we have today should not be the people we balance our budget by cutting their benefits. I believe we need to make some changes, but I believe we need to take care of our people. I don't believe Dr. King would be happy about us trying to balance the budget on the backs of our poor, cutting programs like Medicaid and aid to dependent children, and having people be hungry in the richest nation in the history of the world. So as we look at America today, I believe we need to challenge those who would balance our budget on the backs of those who are less fortunate while they continue to fight for tax cuts for the wealthiest. And as I said, I don't have any problem with success, but we cannot, in good conscience, if you look at what your Bible says, what you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. So I think we have to keep that in mind as we look at how we are going to solve our problems, and make sure that we are doing it in a way that is fair to everyone. Now, you may think that's not a big deal. Let me share something with you, some statistics. In Omaha, Nebraska, one of the most prosperous cities in the United States of America, there are pockets of poverty for African Americans that make us one of the poorest African American communities in the whole nation. At one point, we were the poorest African American population in the country, and fourth for children. Is that the Omaha we want to live in? Is that the America we want to live in? Even today, as we look at the wealth distribution, the top 1% actually control 35.4% of the wealth in this country. We talk about America being the land of opportunity, and we talk about upward mobility. We are number 17 in upward mobility. When you look at industrialized Western nations, the American dream is becoming more and more unlikely for far too many of our people. And I believe we have to challenge that. We have to make sure that every American has an opportunity to live the American dream and to be able to go as far as, one of my favorite preachers is a guy named T.D. Jakes. And what he talks about is elbow grease. And if you don't know what elbow grease is, means hard work. And I believe that every American should be able to go as far as their talent and their elbow grease will take them, and not be limited by the circumstances in which they were born, by what they look like, their race or ethnicity, their gender. If we are truly going to live out what we say we are, then we've got to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be the best that they can be, and that is when America will truly live out the meaning of its creed. And I'm going to read some quotes here, so I got my reading glasses, 51-year-old eyes. But these are some quotes from our President Barack Obama at the dedication of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. He says, "If he were alive today, I believe he would remind us that the unemployed worker can rightly challenge the excesses of Wall Street without demonizing all who work there, that the businessman can enter tough negotiations with his company's union without vilifying the right to collectively bargain. He would want us to know that we can argue fiercely about the proper size and role of government without questioning each other's love for this country, with the knowledge that in this democracy, government is no distant object, but is rather an expression of our common commitments to one another. He would call on us to assume that the best in each other rather than the worst, and challenge one another in ways that ultimately heal rather than wound." He says further, "In the end, that's what I hope my daughters take away from this monument. I want them to come away from here with a faith in what they can accomplish when they are determined and are working for a righteous cause. I want them to come away from here with a faith in other people and a faith in a benevolent God." So I share those with you, and I'm almost done here. I'm going to point number 3. My last task today is to convince you that you can do great things and you can be part of the solution. How many of you know the story of how Dr. King became involved in the Montgomery bus boycott? Couple people. Did he seek that opportunity? Here's what happened, and here's why you too can be able to do great things. He was willing when the opportunity came. The story is Joanne Robinson of the Women's Political Council suggested Dr. King, who was her new pastor, to be the spokesperson for that effort. Now, not very many people know that. They think that somehow he magically, because of the sheer force of his personality or some other reason, that he was able to lead that boycott. What it really goes to show is that he was just like you and I. And when an opportunity came, he was prepared and he was willing to take on the challenge. And so he went on to do great things, as we know, but it wasn't like he sought that particular opportunity or it was handed to him because he was some mythical figure that we make him today. He was really just like you and I, going about his everyday life as a new pastor at the Dexter Baptist Church when someone saw the potential. So the first thing I want you to think about when you're looking at doing great things, as I said earlier, you can never do great things by yourself. So be looking around and be inclusive in the people you surround yourself with so that you can find those other people who have the talent and can help you accomplish great things. That's what Joanne Robinson did. We know the history of the boycott. Over a year without African Americans riding the bus, they brought the Montgomery bus system to its knees and were able to have them make significant changes, and that was the start of the civil rights movement. So we give Rosa Parks a lot of credit, we give Dr. King a lot of credit, and they did the right things. But don't forget about the Joanne Robinsons out there. Don't forget about the people that you run into every day that you can bring on board to do great things. So what I'm going to share with you very quickly are the 4 S's that I call the secrets to success. The first one is I believe you've got to seek opportunities to do great things. You've got to challenge yourself. You've got to get out of your comfort zone and not sit back and wait for somebody else to do something about it. How many times do we wait for somebody else? I believe each one of you is that somebody. So find the challenge, find the cause that motivates you, that makes you say that's not right, and get involved. Get out of your comfort zone. You are no good to me. You are no good to this community. You are no good to this country if you just stay in your comfort zone. So I'm going to challenge each of you to move beyond your comfort zone. Some of you might think, wow, this guy's calm up here. He likes to speak in public. I can honestly tell you that if you had asked me to do this 25 years ago, no way. Look at my parents shaking, laughing at me. They know how quiet I was. I probably wouldn't have said one word if I had walked into this room when I was in high school. So don't believe that you can't challenge yourself and grow beyond your comfort zone. This was way out of my comfort zone, even running for elected office. My goal with the Omaha Police Department was to do a great job every day for the citizens of Omaha and go home every day and have nobody know who I was. And I was pretty good at that too. Not too many people knew who I was. Then I decided to run for elected office and my whole world changed. I had to make sure everybody knew who I was. So that was a dramatic change for me. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to see the specific opportunities that God has for you. They're there. If you'll open your eyes, if you'll look, if you'll see your potential, if you'll see the potential to make a difference, if you'll see what it should be like instead of what it is. So see the specific opportunities that are available to you, because then you are someone who can make a difference. But you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to see. Look at the world around you and see what can be better. And then go out and do it. The third thing, so you know I'm almost done for real now, is to make sure you seize the opportunities that you are given. when I became the Douglas County Treasurer, I knew that if I didn't make a difference in that office, I was going to be one and done, because I had been given an opportunity to continue my public service career in the community I love, but I knew it wasn't a free pass where I could just go there and sit back and do nothing. So I think we've done some good things there. We actually did win a national award for our treasurer's business model because of the efficiencies with the online services, the telephone services, the mail services, and the money that we're saving each year in the treasurer's office. And there's more to come, because I believe you never stop working to be the best you can be as an organization or as an individual. But we had to seize that opportunity. I had to take the same management team that was there prior to me winning the election and get them to believe that we could do great things. And so we've been able to seize that opportunity. And the last thing is, if you do the first three, you will have success. And so thank you all. Hopefully I didn't bore you to death. I don't see anybody that's bored. So thank you. God bless you. And I'll take any questions that you might have. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the trophy, and my wife reminded me. I was trying to make sure I got done in time here. But we actually went on a cruise last week, and getting out of my comfort zone, I got up on stage with a group of guys, and we sang and danced to Stop in the Name of Love. And so that was definitely out of my comfort zone. And so I wanted to share that with you, because one of the things I skipped over a little bit was this. As I was talking about our seniors, I believe we do need to stop in the name of love and make sure that we are doing right by them after all the sacrifices that they had made for this country. See, that's why she's my better 3/4. Thank you, sweetheart.
We want to give you an opportunity to ask Mr. Ewing some questions. So we've got some microphones here that we can pass around so that everyone can hear.
What would you think about another run for Congress?
We knew that was coming, right?
We were debating. Joe and I had another conversation. And the question was, would that be the first or the second question? So I am considering it. I believe that you have to be willing to move out of your comfort zone and look at how you can serve. And so I was very pleased to be able to run and represent the people of this community well. I think I tried to run the right type of campaign where there wasn't, on my part anyway, any mudslinging and negative attacks, but looking at what I had to offer. Now, the problem with that is you have to have the resources to be able to do that. So I'm going to explore whether or not I think the resources would be there, because I think that was the difference when you're outspent 4 or 5 to 1.
Can you describe some of the strategies you utilized in the treasurer's office for the staff to see the vision that you had for?
Sure. I have what I call 6 principles of leadership. The first one is the most important, and that is you treat everyone with dignity and respect. If you don't get that right, you won't be successful. So that was the first thing I tried to do, was treat everyone with dignity and respect, make sure they were doing that. And then really part of that whole thing was making sure they treated you that way. I heard things like, oh, they're an inconvenience, they're stupid. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, they pay our salaries here, folks. And no matter how long I'm in public service, I won't forget that part of it, that I work for you. And so I tried to make sure they understood that as well. But I tried to build teamwork. I tried to make sure that we had honest communication, tried to make sure I listened. One of the things we do, and we didn't do it last year because I didn't want to make it a political issue, is I try to survey the citizens of Douglas County each year to see what you want. And then I do something really silly. I ask the employees how I'm doing. Am I giving you the resources you need? Am I treating you well? Am I being the spokesperson that you would want me to be? All those types of things. And then we try to make sure also that we are looking at how we have a clear vision in terms of me communicating that to them as well as to the citizens of the community. So that's why you'll see us talking about consolidation of facilities and online services and telephone services. So you're not guessing about what we're thinking. We're putting that out there to get your feedback. So those types of things, and I don't know if I went through all 6 or not, but that's what I try to do, is just stay true to those leadership principles. What you see is what you get, basically.
Okay, I just got dared to ask you this question. Since San Francisco has 5 Super Bowls and the Ravens are sworn enemies to the Steelers,
Ravens.
who are you?
Ravens. Keep in mind, Pittsburgh is the greatest pro football franchise in the history of the NFL. So we cannot have anybody tie them with the number of Super Bowls. So I've been hoping, other than Green Bay, I just don't like Green Bay, so I was hoping the 49ers beat Green Bay. But other than that, I've been hoping that they lose. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If you all would please fill out the evaluation sheets on your tables and just leave them there. And we'd like to thank you all once again for taking time out of your workday to join us in the celebration of Martin Luther King. And we thank our speaker for a
Thank you
gracious
very
introduction.
much.